The invention and proliferation of nuclear weapons, also known as nukes, has led to a major turning point in diplomacy. This is because nukes have led to mutual assured destruction, where many countries could destroy each other at any moment. This extreme risk has led to many close calls, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the entire world almost got destroyed. Nukes were first made by the US in mid-1945. The United States would launch nukes at major cities to force Japan into surrendering through fear rather than doing a mainland invasion. Doing a mainland invasion of Japan would cost the Americans and the Allies hundreds of thousands of lives and millions of casualties. Instead, the entire world got to see the destruction of nuclear bombs when the United States dropped them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just a few years later, in 1949, it was discovered that the Soviet Union got their first nuclear weapons. This would influence the United States' decision in the Korean War not to use nuclear bombs on Chinese and North Korean troops because of the fear that the Soviets would retaliate with their own nuclear bombs. This is an example of mutually assured destruction. Mutual assured destruction means that if one country launches nukes, then the other country will retaliate if they have nukes. Allies of each nation might also support them, sending nukes of their own, causing a domino effect where many countries get involved. The Soviets would start producing more nukes, and eventually pass the United States in number of nukes as seen in this graph. This caused an arms race to begin. Other major powers like France, the United Kingdom, also started getting nukes for their own protection. This led to the total amount of nukes skyrocketing. This led to high tensions between the United States and Soviet Union, and an accident almost caused the Soviets to launch nukes at the United States. In Cuba, there was a communist uprising led by Fidel Castro, a communist leader that was friendly with the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union then placed nuclear weapons in Cuba, which could reach the United States if placed inside of Cuba, thanks to the new ICBM technology. This led to the United States blockading Cuba because of the nuclear weapons placed in there. When the United States Navy saw a Soviet submarine going through the blockade, they sent a non-lethal depth charge. Because of this, the officers thought in the submarine that war had already broken out. All but one of the officers voted to launch nukes at the United States. This would have led to the United States retaliating in mutual assured destruction, where everyone would have died. The United States later agreed to withdraw its nukes from Turkey, if the Soviets withdraw their nukes from Cuba. Later, the US and Soviet Union would agree to slowly start disarming their nukes. After such a close call in Cuba, both sides realized how close they were to mutual assured destruction. Both sides wanted to de-escalate the situation, which led to the number of nukes going down from over 60,000 in 1986 to under 12,000 a day. South Africa decided to completely get rid of all of its nukes. However, major powers from back then and today would probably never give up all of their nuclear weapons because they are too large of an asset. Nuclear weapons are often the best defense for a country. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and Russia made a deal with the new countries of Ukraine and Kazakhstan that they would not invade either country if they handed over their nukes. Their main defense if Russia would invade. If Ukraine did not give back their nukes to Russia, Russia could not invade Ukraine because they would get nuked. However, since Ukraine no longer had nukes, Russia would only have to fight through a less costly war with less casualties overall. Currently, 9 countries have nukes. While none of those countries have used them in almost 80 years, any of those countries could launch nukes at any time. Some of these leaders are brutal dictators. Some of them have plans for conquest. Some of them are currently in wars. Would you really think that them launching nuclear weapons is off the table? One communication or malfunction of a random device could spell the end of humanity. Countries like North Korea and Iran see nuclear research as the best defense for their country. North Korea is a perfect example on how threatening to use nuclear weapons is the best defense for a country, because no superpower wants to risk mutual assured destruction. According to David Bender, author of Nuclear Proliferation, North Korea's approach to building the bomb is a case study of how a determined country can evade international controls, and without much help either. Once a country gets nukes, it's very hard for another country to disarm them. Getting rid of a country's nukes is like getting rid of their military, so getting rid of them probably won't come without a fight. With dictators using nukes for political gain, and just the chance of a mistake like what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's clear that nukes are far too risky for what they provide back. Once a dictator for a country like Kim gets nukes, it's practically impossible to stop them without risking a city getting blown up. And if two major world powers ever go to war, billions would die not only from the initial explosions from the nukes, but from the nuclear winter caused by particles blocking sunlight. This would cause the world to cool down so much that crops die and a famine starts. This could cause poorer countries who weren't even involved in the nuclear warfare to collapse, and the people there to starve. Every country, no matter how far away they are, will feel the devastating consequences of nukes. Some people argue that because of the threat of mutual assured destruction, the world is a safer place because no one wants to kill their own country by launching nukes at another country. Countries have to be more diplomatic towards each other rather than going to war, leading to more peace overall. This has led to wars that would have otherwise broken out not happening, and an overall net positive. However, even if the entire world solved their problems diplomatically, miscommunications and mistakes could happen, like what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis. In conclusion, while nukes may be a deterrent for countries, they are still too risky for it to be beneficial overall. Once a country gets nukes, it is nearly impossible to disarm them, and at any moment, 9 world leaders could launch nukes and cause a chain reaction for mutual assured destruction and destroy the world.